Good afternoon. I'm back. How could I refrain from making a video when such serious shit is after going down in New Zealand? Okay, it's the other side of the world, but it's not like what happened there is irrelevant for the future fate of Ireland, Europe, and the rest of the Western world. Happy St. Patrick's Day weekend, everybody. I'm festively wearing a little green and my ginger beard for the sake of the occasion. So I noticed even after this huge, what they call it, event, massacre, there's a lot of things we could call it, that alternative media content creators that I tune into, well, they're conspicuously silent on the events that have unfolded, and I don't blame them, really, I don't. I understand exactly why. Now is not the time to be taking the usual, I don't know what to say, alt-right. It's not even alt-right. I don't consider myself alt-right. I don't consider a lot of the people I tune into to be alt-right. Even Tim Pool, who claims to be a leftist, who is like really anti-leftist in a lot of ways and really conservative in a lot of ways. We'll call him a centrist. I like to consider myself a centrist as well, but I think most people do, you know. I'm a moderate. Like, obviously everyone wants to think they're a moderate and not on any side, because everyone wants to think of themselves as impartial and not partisan or biased in any way. So that's just how human beings are, though. So come on, everybody, get real. Like, you are generally taking a side, at least to some degree, when you talk about divisive issues, and I understand that. And I felt, just because other people seem to be unwilling to talk about this, or at least have been so far, and when I search YouTube, they must have changed their algorithms again, because I can find no independent content creators who have released videos when I search New Zealand, and the search results are very limited, and it's all CNN, NBC, CBS, the BBC, Channel 4, just all the outlets that I don't want to tune into, that I don't want to give any attention to, because I know their coverage is just going to be a big leftist gun control pity party. And, you know, it's really tragic what happened. Like, I watched the video, and there are a lot of things about it that I want to get into, but, you know, at the same time, I feel sorry for the people who died and the people who lost loved ones in that massacre. I'm not going to take the BBC seriously. I'm not going to take Channel 4 seriously, nor any of the mainstream American networks, news networks. So, you know, what's the point in me even tuning into those channels, because it's just nonsense and I don't want to hear it, and it's just going to be just a big pile of leftist virtue signaling, controlled narrative nonsense, where they're claiming that this person is a Trump supporter when he wrote in his own manifesto that he doesn't like Trump and he doesn't like conservatism. So they're just making false equivalencies by calling this guy what they're calling him, and he really had a very particular end that he was trying to achieve, and he wrote about it in his manifesto that he's trying to stir up tension between the left and the right and quicken the cultural degradation towards civil war. And he seems to, so far, have succeeded, and the narratives being pushed are just compassion politics, Islamophobia accusations, and it just seems like this guy used what he did as a way of further destabilizing the socio-cultural situation across the Western world. And I feel that in the not so distant future that there are going to be retaliations from radical Islamists, and I understand that, but you know, at the same time, that's not going to be helpful. That's just going to lead to more and more conflict and more division. And this is unfortunately what I have been thinking was going to happen, because yeah, okay, like in our everyday interactions we might have minor conflicts with people who are recognizably different from us, and that whole in-group preference thing is more and more apparent. But when blood starts to be spilled, well, shit's getting serious. And I felt it was inevitable. I mean, I don't know, like, did this guy just use the killing of Muslims as a way to trigger the left and to trigger Muslims to create more infighting between the different demographic groups as things are getting more multicultural and diverse? Or, you know, did he actually have a strong dislike for Muslims? As far as I understand, he didn't, and he just used this as a pretext to push the culture war to a more extreme point and in a more extreme direction. And when I first heard and read about what happened, I thought that it was just some like neo-Nazi dude who was just fucking not happy with the whole push toward globalism, and that he fucking armed up and went and killed some people. But the more I think about it and the more I read about it, the more I understand that that's not the case at all, and that this is like a I don't even know if I dare to say a one-man psyop on civilization at large, because a lot of people are thinking that this was a false flag, and I really don't think he was acting alone. I know other people were arrested who were apparently associated with this guy. I don't know if they were involved in the shooting from the video anyway. It was just the one guy. And from the manifesto, apparently it's just the one guy. But at the same time, you know, this just seems very unusual. And that guy seemed very, very well trained. I mean, fuck, like, that guy was quick with his rifle. Like, I don't know, did he have a shotgun as well? But he seemed to have a shotgun, or maybe it was a pump action rifle. I don't know. I'm Irish, so I don't have the depth of knowledge about firearms that I would have if I was living in a country where I had access to firearms. But I digress, you know, like, it doesn't matter what guns he used. What matters is he used the guns he had very, very efficiently and effectively. Like, he was a very well-trained professional killer. And who is this guy? You know, what do we really know about this guy? Was he military? Was he a stooge that was trained to do this? Was he simply one man acting alone, or a man acting as a part of a cell of individuals that somehow got together to commit such an act? I mean, how, you know what I mean? Like, just living in this world, like, people are, like, I don't even believe that people can get together to plot anything nefarious anymore without getting found out, unless they're sanctioned by intelligence agencies, or unless they're being groomed into doing something terrible by intelligence agencies. I mean, so many of the terrorists and mass killers in the US have been shown to have ties to the FBI and other agencies who are, they are the government, you know, they are the deep state. And a lot of the time, it seems like there are a lot of really strange connections between military or government agencies and lone gunmen. So I'm not sure what I believe about this, other than, oh, goddamn, that was fucking seriously gruesome. I mean, I don't know how many of you have watched the full video. Like, I was looking for it yesterday and I couldn't find it. It had been taken down from LiveLeak repeatedly, and LiveLeak was even taken offline to prevent the uploading of this video and the viewing of this video. And I thought LiveLeak was an open platform for whatever to be posted, and I don't know why videos like this are taken down. Yeah, okay, it is graphic. Yeah, okay, you know, some people are gonna feel squeamish and upset when they see it, but this is reality. Like, let's stop censoring the internet so we can understand reality better and know what's happening and discuss what is happening. And on that point, on YouTube, there was like a clip of, like, before he goes into the mosque and starts fucking slaying people left, right, and center. And the same on LiveLeak, there's like a little short video with him, like, you know, in the first person shooter perspective with his camera, which is also really suspect and makes me think it was contrived. And I'll get into that in a minute. And the comments are disabled. The comment section is disabled, and even on YouTube with the video, and we have Gab's Dissenter add-on now for Chrome. Something was wrong. Dissenter had 0 comments on the YouTube video, so I'm thinking, can Dissenter be censored? And just the fact that the YouTube video with hundreds of thousands of views did not have one single Dissenter comment, made me think that dissenter is not as powerful a tool as many people think that it is, because, well, surely people are commenting. You know, there were dissenter comment sections available on other lesser known websites where the event was being reported on, but not YouTube, which is where most people are going, and which is where most people are trying to discuss what is going on in the world as far as video uploads of vitally important stuff that's happening. So I thought that was odd. And yeah, like on the thought of it being a potential false flag, I'm just trying to block my face because the light is just oversaturating me, and you know, I just look like a radiant creature from the great beyond. So, you know, it's better if I have a little less light on my face, because, you know, then you can actually see me a little better in all my glory. So anyway, it seemed funny to me that the perspective was so perfectly like a first-person shooter. I mean, it's like, how was this done? Did this guy, like, create a camera rig sort of headset where it looks exactly like you're in Call of Duty or some other first-person shooter? Or is this a part of a psyop where people are being kind of psychologically groomed toward what, being entertained by military style incursions and unbridled violence? Or is it that some guy just thought it would be cool if he recorded it in such a way that the video of the atrocity was just like a first-person shooter excerpt? So that's, you know, that's just something that really stuck with me, that it just looked exactly like a first-person shooter game. And we are being mentally groomed by the media that we consume, and all big money media. I don't trust big money media. I don't trust movies. I don't trust big budget TV shows. I don't trust games. It's all just programming, essentially. And whoever has the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions to make huge budget productions, I don't trust. Because the most nefarious people on the planet are the people with the most money. The people who are exerting the most nefarious influence are those who have the most money. So when I see big budget productions that are, you know, like all the games are ultra violent, all the games are like oriented around war and killing other people, I just think that's like propaganda to get people comfortable with killing and make people like want to join the military, or just put people in a mindset where they're more comfortable with the idea of committing acts of violence and even enjoying it. So anyway, it's difficult to even figure out how to begin to talk about such events, because if I say anything, wrong, people are gonna fucking want to kill me. Not that anybody's gonna see my fucking videos because my view count is low, but whatever. I'm making this for my own edification and for the few people that might give a shit about what I have to say. And at the same time, I don't want to be mentally neutered by the severity of what happened to the extent that I'm not able to talk about it. Because this is the most important stuff for us to be talking about. And we should be talking about events like this in great detail and laying it all on the line so we can understand what's happening and so that we can give our honest points of view so we can have a better idea of how to develop our civilizations to the extent that this sort of thing is not happening, that it's not going to be increasingly divisive, that there isn't going to be a ramping up of tensions between demographics and those who are differently aligned politically. So I think it's important to at least try to talk about this stuff, but in the world we live in now, like, saying the wrong thing can completely ruin your life in so many ways and irreparably. And I think things are just getting worse and worse that way. And it's appalling that we do have to be so careful because we can't speak about important things and then we can't understand them. And then we're just getting nowhere as far as intellectual and cultural development. And things just go further and further downhill. And we're just all in the dark and just afraid to speak and afraid to act. And that just is not going to help the situation. Things are going way downhill, and it's furthered by the fact that we're so heavily censored, by the fact that we're potentially going to be defamed and have our lives ruined and have our income sources affected if we speak out of line and express the wrong opinion. So on that point, I'm going to try to get into this, and I'm going to try to speak honestly, and I'm going to try to just, forget what happened. Yeah, okay, it's a big deal. Yeah, it's horrible that so many people got massacred, and they were civilians, essentially. I don't know anything about any of the people that died. Like Islam, not super fond of. It is an ideology that preaches intolerance toward non-Muslims, and I still recognize that, and I'm still okay saying that even in the wake of such an event. These, I have to presume, were just regular people. What that even means, I don't know, but I don't think they were plotting anyone's demise in the mosque that day, so the fact that they got slaughtered like that is kind of fucked up, like, whoever you are, you have to kind of admit that, or at least recognize that murder generally is not nice. So yeah, like, I want to say that I believe that this is a natural result of what is happening. Like, diversity is not strength. Diversity is division. Diversity is different groups who identify as separate to each other. And there are a lot of cultural differences, and there is a lot of historical beef, I guess, between a lot of demographics, and a lot of people's cultures are founded or based on ideas that make that culture intolerant of other cultures. And if you have multiple cultures grouped together who have ideologies that are antithetical to each other, then things are just going to build and ramp up, and eventually stuff like this is going to happen. And like, I'm a European. I've lived in Europe the past few years as all these attacks are happening. You know, people getting blown up, people getting gunned down, people getting run over en masse by hijacked trucks. I mean, I live in Ireland. There hasn't been an Islamic terror attack here, at least not yet. But we have our government spending tens or hundreds of thousands on barriers to erect in some of the busiest parts of the country as far as pedestrian foot traffic, to prevent terrorists of whatever ilk or background from being as effective as they might otherwise be in running down tons or however many of our citizens and whoever is on the streets that day with a hijacked truck. So it's not just that there are terrorist attacks in France, that there are mass sexual assaults in Germany, that there are beheadings in the streets of the UK, that there are Sharia patrols all over Europe. It's that even our government, who are trying to say that there's no problem with diversity, as they erect very expensive defensive measures to prevent further terrorist attacks of the kind that have been happening over the past few years, there is just more and more little telltale signs that, you know, the government who is pushing the mass migration, forced diversity agenda, that they know the bad things are going to start happening, and they're taking defensive measures to prevent them, but really inappropriate defensive measures, because the real problem is that we're not discerning or discriminating carefully enough about who we're inviting in. I mean, Ireland has Islamic extremists coming here. Recently, Leo Varadkar, our unelected non-Irish Taoiseach, he has stated that ISIS fighters, like literal terrorists who went to fight in Syria, are going to be allowed back in the country. So jihadists who have lived here and who left the country to go fight on the side of some of the most abhorrent religious extremists, who are some of the most gruesomely violent and who have some of the most primitive beliefs and practices, that these people are going to be left back into Ireland when they're coming home from being jihadist terrorists in the Middle East. So this is just appalling, and it's like, it's not like, it is just a fact that Western governments are bringing threats into our country, and that's making a lot of people very worried, and it's making a lot of people very scared. And it's also creating an environment that potential false flags, like maybe what happened in New Zealand was, it creates an environment where these events are all the more believable and they're all the more effective. Because people are afraid and there is intergroup conflict, and it's just, it seems to be, at least to me, getting worse and worse. And I just really feel like a lot of bad things are going to be happening over the next few years, and that Europe and the rest of the Western world is going to be a war zone again, and that just how broadly reaching the political climate that is causing this, how that, I think, might lead to global conflict. I mean, there are so many countries that seem to be on the verge of civil war, or at least violent political action between factions, and it's not getting better. It is in fact getting worse. And there is greater and greater censorship, and there is a less and less ability for people to do anything about it, because you just can't act, you know, unless you're already made, unless you're loaded and you can speak your mind without fear of being deplatformed, defunded, and losing your job and all that. Then you can't say anything, because you will lose your job, you will lose your social status, and you'll become a pariah with nothing. And then that's just accommodating further and further extremism. I mean, people who think certain things that are dangerous for them to think, and who have beliefs that are dangerous for them to express, what happens when they lose their job because of what they believe in? That's just more injustice done to them. And if that's not something that's going to push people toward further and further extremism, I don't know what is. You know, like, if people have nothing to lose, they're going to be a lot more willing to enact violence for what they believe in. And the climate seems more and more accommodating to this happening, and that's worrying. Like, all the pieces are being put together, it seems to me, to deepen the conflict that exists and exacerbate it in every way possible. And it's worrying. And for now, I'm just gonna cut it off there, because I'm cold and I need to put on a jumper and put on the heating, because I'm in a t-shirt and it's cold. And yeah, I don't even know what to say about this. I'm losing track of myself in my pursuit of coherent, relevant, and allowable thoughts. Because, you know, there are things I could say that I might believe, but I don't know if I can couch them in terms that are easily digestible enough for my listening audience, because it's easy to say the wrong thing in this day and age, and especially when you're talking about issues that are so emotionally jarring, So yeah, on that note, I felt I needed to make some sort of video. Please comment. I'm curious to know what other people think about this. And I'm over the next few days, I'm going to try to learn a little more about the backstory of this guy. I'm going to give the manifesto another look over. I haven't had time because I'm really busy working full time now. My job is like consuming my life. So I just don't have a lot of time to read or think, but I want to understand this issue better because this is history being made, and I see the dominoes lined up and ready to fall, and feel that catastrophe could not be far off in the distance. So we need to talk about this, and everybody needs to talk about what is happening, and at the same time people need to be intellectually honest and represent their own beliefs and points of view openly and without fear, because that's what we need to keep the lid on this Pandora's box that our civilization is turning into. We need to speak openly, or everything's going to go to hell, and we're not going to be able to do anything about it because we're all so divided. So, on that note, folks, shit is getting real, but hey, that's the world we live in. We're a bunch of wild primates, and we're being poked and prodded in ways that are just making us crazy, and life is getting harder and harder, so things are getting fucked up, and I expect them to get worse, so hopefully not, fingers crossed. But anyway, for now, I'm out, my dears. Goodbye, good luck, and happy St. Patrick's Day.